Japan or wherever you've been deployed, everything's going to be back to where it was before. And the same thing with some of the Marines and the soldiers. They think, well, as soon as I get back to the States, and I'll get back in the saddle and everything will be perfect, just like it was before. But it's never the same, ever. And so when we're seeing, as a clinician, we're seeing down the road, maybe 6 to 9 months down the road, or maybe a year even, that all of a sudden you figure out you don't quite fit in the way you did before. You're not able to maybe be as resilient as you were. Maybe you're a little bit, have a shorter temper. Maybe you don't like your kids crawling on you all the time. Maybe you don't like the demands that family members are making of you, wanting you to participate in this, that, and the other. Maybe you don't want to make decisions like you did before. And so you start getting frustrated with yourself. You start feeling angry because, God, I made it through this far. Why on earth am I having all these issues right now? But it's just because all of a sudden, maybe you've kind of come to the realization that you have changed as an individual. Now, your job is to reassess yourself, reinvent yourself. Figure out how you fit back in. Figure out how, with family members, how do you fit back into this equation? Right now, our divorce rate is very, very high. And it's not just enlisted. We're talking about officers, too, who have been married 20, 25 years. Because of these multiple deployments and the long duration of them, the quick turnarounds. When I was in Schofield Barracks, I was there, I've been there like 6 times. I've lived there 7 months out of the last 14. But I was there from November to March, welcoming home 7,100 troopers. I was just there in July, preparing them for redeployment. Now they're down, they're training up. They're leaving in October. So the duration of the time at home is very short. And so there's not very much time. I don't even say the word reintegrate anymore because everybody keeps their walls up. If you all remember your first deployment, perhaps it was quite an emotional thing. Maybe you used anger as a way of pushing away your loved ones so it didn't hurt so bad when you went out the door and got on the bus. But then they're left at home with all that pain and not getting any closure. So that's not a very good technique of going on deployment. But maybe you did that. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you had a wonderful send-off. Who knows? Everyone's different. That's the thing. Every single one of us are different. And we handle things differently. So now we have to figure out how are we going to put the pieces back together with these multiple deployments. And they say with each deployment, I don't know who they are, it gets easier and easier. Well, what does get easier, it gets easier and easier to go downrange. Because that's where your family is. That's where your military family is. That's where your brothers and sisters are. Those are the people that understand you. They're the ones that don't question your interesting little behaviors that you have every once in a while. You know exactly what you're going to do, what your expectations are, and how you're going to accomplish your tasks. Of course, there's other variables that come into play when you're downrange that are out of your control. But when you come back home, there's all these expectations. And it can be very stressful coming back home. And a lot of family members don't understand that. A lot of clinicians don't understand that. And I know that we're training up clinicians very quickly. And I pray that they get enough information about military culture that they don't do any kind of harm. Because it's a unique population of people to work with. You are a unique population of people, and you have special needs and special ways of dealing with things. And I really hope for those of you who are out there training clinicians or you're clinicians in training that you learn as much as you can before you harm anyone by maybe standard protocol that you would treat someone else with. Military are a little bit different. And it's a very difficult transition sometimes, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. One of the most important things is that the family members learn as much as they can while you're downrange. And I work a lot with the family members too. And they need to learn as much as they can so that they're prepared to know, well, you know, he's a little off today, or she's a little off, or she or he got a little angry today, or I think I better stay away from him for a while until he cools down. You need to learn proper ways of dealing with escalations of anger, sleepless nights, nightmares. I have wives who have indicated, and I have soldiers and Marines who have told me this too, of course nightmares are pretty common. Well, the wives say, well, what should I do? Should I wake him up? And I get questions like this all the time. Well, should I wake him up? And I go, no, I think you should probably go sleep on the couch. And then they want to talk about, how do I wake them up? How do I go in and wake them up? Now, we've had horror stories of how people have been awakened, and they end up, the soldier or the Marine end up being startled and may do something that they're not aware of at the moment that they're awakened because of their startle response. But for them in the downrange, that's survival. When you get back home, it doesn't work out very well when you're putting someone up against the wall. But you can't help that. So, so there's different ways to deal with those things. Humor is very important. Humor is vital because you got to laugh about some of this stuff. You know, you can't take it all so serious. Some of the symptoms that we have with PTSD are survival symptoms or survival skills in the downrange. The hypervigilance, the startle response. The sleep disorder. I mean, you don't sleep when you're downrange, right? You can't sleep through a mortar round. You're getting up, you're getting out there, you're doing whatever you can. It's stimulus response patterns. So the intensity of your responses are very, very great. And they're instantaneous. You just don't sit there and think about things. That's why it's so hard. Sometimes we hear that ethics is very much a part of being in the war zone. But then you have to kind of ponder. A moment of hesitation is a moment of life or death. So it's a big quandary, isn't it? Trying to piece all this together and find out where you fit in. So the stigmas, like I say, are alive and well. And when we look at the stigmas, Colonel Hogue did a bunch of research in 2004 on stigmas. And if I look at my slide, I'm not going to go on the slide thing. You got me. I'm not going to go on the slide thing. I know I got a couple more minutes here. But anyway, the stigmas pretty much pertain to how am I going to be perceived by my unit? Am I going to be less of a Marine or less of a soldier? Will they be able to rely on me? It's all about how you will be perceived as a weak link in this chain, because the commitment to your buddy is unlike anything that we ever have in the civilian world. The relationships that you form in the military and the commitments to literally lay down your lives for your fellow Marine or your fellow soldier, whatever, we'll never know that in the civilian world. And your buddy's life is more important than your own, because you don't want to come home and sit next to an empty chair. You'll do everything in your power, literally, to bring your buddy home alive. And so to feel like if I get help, it's a sign of weakness, that is such it's a very unfortunate situation, because getting help is vital. It's extremely, extremely important. And when I hear that and I go around a room, I'll ask 200 soldiers in a room. I have probably 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 responses up here. And most of them mirror that information that Colonel Hogue found. So the stigmas are still alive and well. His research was done in 2004. It's now 2008. And I know we're changing some of the protocol and that type of thing to get help, but it has got to start from the top down. It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength to realize, you know what, I need to go talk about this. And there's all sorts of resources out there. One of the best, I think, really is a chaplain, because some of the issues that you have to deal with are issues that are one side of you. You're a warrior, you've gone down range, you've done things, you've seen things, you've participated in things that are beyond comprehension, and maybe you enjoyed what you did, maybe you really were good at it. And you come home, and you've got all these people saying, oh, welcome home, you're such a hero, I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah.